Hey, gang, this is Carl White, and I am in the secret headquarters here at the Mortgage Marketing Animals. And you are listening to Loan Officer Freedom, #1 podcast in the world today for loan officers. And Joe Rogan, I am coming after you. There can only be one. And by the way, I've got not by the way, I got a special guest, but my special guest today, a very dear friend of mine, Todd Scrima, who also has a freaking awesome podcast. So Todd, dude, it's an absolute honor to have you on here. I know I've been chasing you for a while to get on an episode, and I was like the little paparazzi following you around everywhere, and I finally held you down in full Nelson. You said uncle, and here you are. So good to see you, brother.
Well, good to see you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And yeah, you're one of the there's about, I mean, just my opinion, there's like 20 iconic people in the mortgage business that I've had the pleasure of either knowing personally or kind of knowing, and you're one of them. And I just think what you've done with your show, the podcast is excellent. The coaching, I just think it's awesome. So I really have a lot of respect for you. And we did develop a great friendship. I remember the first time we met up in Tahoe at one of your events, and we sat outside for like 5 hours, and I just like, you're my brother or my dad or something.
It was love at first sight. I can tell you that. It was love at first sight. So awesome. And actually it's been a very rapid friendship that we developed, which is not typical for me. Just as an FYI, I think you're more of an extrovert than I am. I'm a lot of people are surprised by this, but I'm very much an introvert. So anyway, it's just been an honor. So, hey, yeah. What I thought we'd talk about, and I think everybody knows who you are, but you're the founder of Summit Funding. Anything like if you give a 15-second, who is Todd? I think everybody knows you, but just do it anyway.
Well, no, that's fine. I started out 30 years ago as a loan officer, like you, and started a mortgage banking company 28 years ago called Summit Funding. Spent 20 years starting and growing a coaching company for loan officers and branch managers, and then I exited that a couple of years ago. And my main business is mortgage. That's my 80+% of my time. I do have several other companies that I run and grow, but I'm not as active in them. It's more of an oversight. But I love business and I love helping people, and my passion is really, it's always been, I think I've gotten better at it over the last few years, but it's always been to help loan officers get more deals. Because I always thought if someone has more leads than they can handle, they're going to do great. And everything bad happens on the other side of lack of leads. I know you feel the same way, because that's one of the things we have in common, but it's one thing to say those things. It's another thing to really know how to do it.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of goes into the topic that we're talking about today is you and I have both been doing this for decades, like a long time. And certainly things are, and maybe they aren't. That's what we're going to sit here and debate a little bit today. Things are different today. I think certainly at some level, for sure, things are different. I remember, as I'm sure you do, the loan officer didn't run DU or LP. We would take the app. I don't know. For me, we would take the application, fax it over to the underwriter, and then the underwriter would fax back the findings, and then we would fulfill or not those findings, and that's how we closed the loan, was via fax machine. So let's talk a little bit about like the loan officer. I don't know, 20 years ago and today, and what's different. What skill sets, what technology. I think sometimes, I've always thought sometimes I know for sure I can get buried in technology, and sometimes my introvertedness takes over, and I'll try to bury myself into technology, thus hiding from or giving myself an excuse for not getting out, right? Mm-hmm. And but yet we know technology is necessary. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling here a little bit. Let's talk about.
Let me frame this up, because I want you to think about a couple things. One is process and one is value. So let's deal with process. I'm gonna say a metaphor that probably most of us have done. So if Carl, you and I went to Biloxi, Mississippi,
Okay.
on a trip, and we're going to spend the weekend, and who knows, we were fishing or whatever we're doing. And we get to the hotel. This is 30 years ago, 20 years ago. We get to the hotel, and I say, Carl, you're like, hey, let's treat ourselves to some nice restaurant tonight. And a great idea. I would probably go down to the hotel concierge or the front desk lady and say, hey, where's a good place to eat around here? We're craving a steak. Okay. So that's 20, 30 years ago, maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
Today, you tell me that comment, even at my age at 53, I would go to Yelp, find a 5-star review restaurant. I would either, I don't know if Yelp does reservations. If they didn't, I would go to Open Table, open that app, and we would get a 7:30 reservation. So the process of how we think and do things has changed. And if we don't sell that way, then there's a disconnect and we miss them. Now, I want to be careful of these comments. That's just a metaphor. The metaphor is meant to represent there has been a change in process. There's been a change in how I get to know you. There's been like, I'll give you an example. I know you get this all the time. I'll give you a real life example. Before we met, you were having me to a conference and had me speak on something, and then we met afterwards. On the way to the event, guess what I did?
My suspicion is you probably listened to some of the podcasts that we're on right now.
I listened to 3 or 4 podcasts on the trip up there. So by the time I met you, I had a reference point, like your mannerisms. Oh, you're more low key, like you're very smart, but you don't want me to come at you. Like, I just got a sense for your personality. One of the podcasts, I forgot, it was someone interviewing you, and you talked about your upbringing. So I felt by the time I got to the event, a couple hours later, I'm like, I kind of know this Carl guy. Like, I knew of you. Now I feel like I know you. And then I met you. And that's it. Very, very common. Now, I want to be careful. People read into comments. This concept that you can only be successful if you're an influencer or you're online or you got your own podcast. That's not what we're saying. It can help, but that's not, I don't want to get people lost. My point is the process has changed. How we get to know people has changed a little bit. And then I think the second thing that's changed, Carl, is I call it the value equation. If you look at companies that do really well today, they offer more value than the others. Now the consumer is
smart. Wait, say it again. Say that again.
They offer more, they create more value, either real or perceived value. So for example, Uber is cool. I was just flying around yesterday. I took my son on a trip to colleges and flying around, and I had to get Ubers everywhere. It provides value to me. They're on time. I can see them coming. It's not that costly. It's a beautiful thing. Apple, my phone, our phones develop a lot of value because they do, like, you know, there's like 100 apps that I use on it, right? I listen to podcasts on it, and it's a compass and it's an alarm clock, and right, all those things. That's value creation. So I think that where the world's gotten really hard, and certainly our industry is being pummeled right now, so I don't want to sugarcoat that. But the individuals that create more value, whether that's the individual or whether it's a company, those are the people that are going to win, because the consumer is a lot smarter and more educated.
You know, though, so we've talked about this before, not you and I, but I've talked about this before. And, you know, I kind of run on the fence on this value thing, or have maybe a slightly different view on it, which is just a theory. So let's say, that's like Todd. So we become good friends in a very short period of time. If you were to call me up at 2:00 in the morning one night, and you said, Carl, I need you here at my house at 10:00 tomorrow morning. I'm in a bind, whatever that thing is, right?
Right.
I'm in a bind. Something happened. I need support, whatever, right? brother, you know, I'd be there, right? Shadow of a doubt. So whatever the first flight was, I'd be on it, like literally. So, and I don't do that. So you've never come and mowed my yard. You've never come over and washed my car. You've never given me $1 that I know of, right? So I would do that. I would do that for one reason, is because of who you are to me, right? You're a buddy of mine, right? And I would do that. And so the value that so I'm not saying there's not value there. There for sure is. But the value there is you're my brother, right? You become a very dear friend in a very short period of time. And so it's not that you're coming and scratching my back or some version of that, is because how I feel when I hang out with you.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree. So I feel the same way, because we're relationship driven and we're value driven.
So, but let me just clarify my thought. So in the same aspect, I think like with referral partners, I think for me, the way I could scale that up is not by going in, and I'm using air quotes here, mowing their yard and washing their car, and I'm going to help you build your business. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I can't scale that. Maybe you can, because you have a different skill set than I do, right? But I could never scale that up. And so for me,
Can I stop you for a second?
yes.
You already have. So I went on this I went on this journey a couple years ago, and Carl was a part of it, where I said, you know what? I know face-to-face, belly-to-belly, relationship building, like I built my business that way and still do. Mortgage marketing animals, I can't go on a podcast or open a video or be on Facebook without you giving me some sort of value. And because of that, you've developed a coaching company that helps a lot of people and makes money. That is value creation. That is what you do. Now, here's where people get confused. Does that naturally lead to relationships? 100%. 100% it does. It's normal human emotion roadmap that if Jay Shetty said something the other day, I was listening to a podcast, and he said, it takes 40 hours of spending time with someone before you develop a deep friendship. I thought that was an interesting comment. Now, when I'm listening to your podcast, I'm developing a relationship with you. Maybe I haven't talked to you for 2 weeks, but I catch you, a snippet of you on Facebook or something. So you are creating value. I mean, mortgage marketing animals is about teaching people how to live a better life, how to have more time, how to make more money, how to save money. That's value.
Yeah. I think what it is, I think a lot of loan officers, I think they put too much pressure on themselves. And by thinking, I got to bring value. And I think how a lot of people misinterpret it, is they go after the 90, usually it runs between, so I use this term that I call qualified. I don't know if I came up with that or if it's an industry term or whatever, but I want to be working with a qualified agent. So in my world, yours might be different, but in my world, that means they closed 8 buyer sides in the last 12 months. That makes them a qualified. And I think the mistake that which by the way, if you run the stats on this, which my team personally does this, that if we take any particular state and we go, all right, of this state, of all the real estate agents, how many of them are qualified? How many of them are 8 buyer sides or more in the last 12 months? So they actually have business referred to me. It runs between 4 to 6%. So depending upon what state, but between 4 and 6%. So let's just say 5%, right? Which we've gone pretty much, I think, literally all 50 states at this point, and it runs right around that.
Yep.
And I think the mistake is loan officers think I have to bring value, and that value is helping them build their business. And they're doing it to the 95% that doesn't have business, that frankly probably won't listen to any advice or do anything I mean, some will, but most not. And so I think they put this thing on them that I have to help them build their business so that when they do get successful, they'll refer to me. And I think to myself, brother, that ain't never going to happen. Like the go after the people that's already successful, which is the 5%. And to me, I sent out a survey. We're going back, I don't know, 10 years ago, I guess, something like that, and we sent it out. I think we got somewhere around, I think it was like 15,000 real estate agents replied back to us. It's like, what's your number one complaint of your loan officer you're currently working with? Number one, I don't close on time. Number two, we have a deal going on. I don't know what's going on. And those two, 1 and 2 is pretty close to each other. Number one was closing on time, but number two, I don't know what's going on deal was pretty close. A little bit of a distant third was I sent them over a lead, never hear back from them. Don't know what, did they approve them? Did they not? Did they call them? Did they not? Don't even know where we are, right? That's the number third complaint. Number 4, 5, and 6 was so far down, it was insignificant. So I always focused my attention on what some people would say, well, everybody does that. Well, apparently they don't, because it's the number 1, the number 2, and the number 3 complaint. So for me, the value that I always brought was number 1, number 2, close you on time, give you great communication, follow up on your leads like cream on a pickle, right? And I think a lot of loan officers, they go, wait, everybody does that, so that's not important, even though that's their top 3 complaints. And they focus that value on trying to build their business. And I need to bring you some groundbreaking business advice each week, and that pressure that they put on them. So I'm not that clever. I'm not that clever that every single week I can bring this groundbreaking revelation to the 95% of real estate agents not producing. And I think that's a mistake.
Carl, you're clarifying something. So I agree with what you're saying. It's what you say and how you say it. So Southwest Airlines, if you study their business plan, there's a, I call it your uniques, right? And so like if you were build your business or build a company, you say, what are the 3 uniques? What, in other words, what do you do that none of your competitors or very few are doing all 3? So I use Southwest as an example of this. Southwest is on time arrivals, low fares, and fun. But they hammer those things over and over and over again. They say them differently every week. They present them differently every week, but it's the same. Those 3 ingredients on what they feel makes them unique are just said over and over again and presented over and over again, maybe demonstrated over and over again in a different way. So yeah, when I say build value, add value, I'm not talking about creating the next Uber. That's not, I know people go there sometimes, they're like, well, I just don't know how to do that, so I'm not going to do it. What you're saying, and you're right, is, hey, I do A, B, and C really well, like really well. Now, there's also a sequence issue. So when you think about sales, I think of it like almost like a Gantt chart, right? And in the beginning, when you talk about uniques and adding value and all that, I call it the hook. That's the reason that they get to know you. But that's not the reason they continue with you. So like you and I were probably naturally attracted to each other, probably because you think I'm cute or something, but I'm joking.
I didn't say cute. I said hot. I said hot, not cute, hot.
We were probably naturally attracted to each other because, hey, here's 2 guys that have been leaders in this industry and coaching people for a long time and have done it personally. That's kind of a lot in common. What kept us in touch was the relationship. What kept us in touch was, like, I feel like, and I've called you a few times, I'm like, hey, I'm stuck. Like, how do you do this? Right? And you're very gracious, like, hey, let's get on with my team. Let's figure this out, and we figure it out. But that's part of relationship, right? It naturally leads to relationship. But if I were to call you, and let's say I wanted to get to know you, and you didn't know me from Adam, and I say, Carl, I think you're cool. Let's be friends. You're going to be like, who are you? And I already have a lot of friends, right? And unfortunately, that's one of the things we would agree you shouldn't do. And I call it buddy selling, right?
Yeah.
So if you got a good hook or a good value equation and they meet with you because of that. You know what's funny about sales? And I feel weird saying this because it sounds odd. About 80% of the time, your hook, what I'm calling your hook or your value, they never even bring it up. They go straight into relationship mode.
Hmm.
So
So
what,
let me ask you this. So what, give me some examples of some hooks in today's market. And a two-part, is that any different than what it was 10 or 15 or 20 years ago?
okay, so sales and sales, influence is influence. It's said differently. I can give an example. Someone asked me the other day, said, Todd, you're plopped in a new town. You don't know a soul, but you know how to do mortgages. What would you do? And what I told them was, I would pull the list of the 8+ buyer sites, just like you just said. And let's say it's a pretty big town and there's 200 of them.
Okay.
That's my target market. I would call 40 of them every single day. I would send the other 60 a 1-minute video. And I would offer value with both of those things saying roughly the same thing.
Tell me, and what are you offering? Like, you're offering value. Define.
I always offer more money. I always offer, let's make some money. And my script, even when I was a loan officer 30 years ago, my most effective and honestly, probably the only script I ever used, because I'm not that smart, I can't remember 5 or 6 scripts.
Yeah,
and I just said, hey, Carl, it's Todd Scrima. I work over here at Summit Funding. I've heard some great things about you. Can I get 15 minutes on your calendar to see if there's any way I can help you make more money? And sometimes I would use an exact number. I might say another $5,000 a month, another $10,000 a month. I would change it up, but it was always about them making them more money. And if I would do that script, I would get about 20% appointments. So if I called 20 people, I'm going to get 4 appointments. And then I go on those appointments. And if I know how to do that appointment, which is a process, then a certain percentage of them, about 20% of them, I'm actually going to start doing business with. So it's just more, it's knowing that the process, it's understanding some techniques, and then it's knowing how to close. And some of it's also knowing you don't need to close everybody, right? If you don't get along, you don't hit it off, don't follow up, don't do that. So I hate to say that it's a numbers game, but that process still works. What's different than 30 years ago is that I didn't have a video capability, so I didn't have a smartphone, so I couldn't have texted them videos. And people say, why do you send videos? Well, because it gives me a higher closure rate when I call them the next day, right? I have a better chance of setting an appointment if they know me from Adam. And if I text them the day before, whether they watch the video or not, I still have a better chance of them answering the phone or texting me back, because it's easy to text back and say, yeah, I'll take your appointment Tuesday at 3.
So when you offer, I'm going to help you make more money, like what would be a typical way that, like I'm on that first call with you and you said, hey, Carl, I want to meet with you to tell you how to make, see if there's some way that we can make you, i.e. me, more money. What's the top 1 or 2 ways that actually happens?
Yeah, so I've had this brainstorm with a group of loan officers last week, 2 weeks ago, and we came up with over 50 ways to make an agent more money together. So I'll just give you a few of them. One is a realtor years ago taught me how to really hold an open house. The guy closed 4 buyers' sides a month from open houses. I was his loan officer. He taught me how to do that. And it's a process. And it's actually very simple, just so I'm not trying to play mystery guy. The client walked in, he would greet him, hey, I'm Victor. Say, hey, the seller wanted me to give him some feedback. Before you leave, can you tell me one thing you love about the house and one thing you hate? And they'd say, sure. So they walk around, they come back, they say, Victor, the kitchen, man, we're both really gourmet chefs. That kitchen is awesome. We're looking for that kitchen. Great. What do you not like? That backyard, we got 4 kids. It's like 2 feet by 10 feet, ain't gonna work. Victor says, great, appreciate that. Hey, there might be something like you're describing coming up on the market. I get your email and phone number, and if it comes up, I'll call you. Yeah. So to say that was Saturday or Sunday, and then every Tuesday, guess who got a call? Hey, it's Victor. I met you at the open house, Carl. There's a huge backyard with a beautiful kitchen right in the area you're talking about. It's not even on the market yet. Can you stop by at 5 o'clock and watch? I'll meet you over there. Over and over and over again. It's the open house system he taught me. So that's an example. Okay. Now I still go to open houses. I don't know if you ever do, but I do. And it goes something like this. Hi. Have a look around. That's not adding value.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an idea. I hate to use this one because it's way overused, but if I was a loan officer today, I hate even saying this, but literally this is what I would do because the hook is so good. I would team up with a social media person that knows how to do social media. Yeah. And I would help realtors hook them up with that consultant. You know, a lot of people do that $300-400 a month. It's not expensive.
Yeah.
And say, hey, you really need a social media presence. I've got a team that does that. Let me meet with you and we'll figure it out together. And like help them facilitate them meeting my social media person and they blow them up. Okay. So that's another example. I know this one's super simple, but I taught a lot of agents. This worked back in the day. And we would just call their past clients and would put on a happy hour. And we'd have 6-7 couples show up and they would always get a listing or a new buyer.
Yeah.
So that's 3 ideas. We came up with 50 something the other day.
So would you say then that over, I don't know, the last 20 years or 25 years, that it's really the same message that like and I just want to make sure I have it right, because if you disagree, please speak up, which I know you would. Are we saying the same message that we were 25 years ago, just using a different format of delivery?
I would say yes and no. So I was taught there's 5 ways to get clients. And there's a lot of ways to say this, but here's the simple version is private reach out. So that could be people you know or cold calling. So private reach out, affiliate referrals, which is realtors. Customers tell other customers, so our past clients refer us or come back to us. Content that attracts, that's content, and paid ads. Now, on all 5 of these, so let me tell you my story. The only thing I ever did as a loan officer was private reach out and affiliate referrals. I never even marketed to my database until I was 12 years a loan officer. Not once, which is stupid. So now, but here's the bias. I did not mail to my clients because I'm like, who's going to really call me back? And am I really going to get 3-4 more loans from sending a mailing? The answer was yes, because the first month I ever mailed to my past clients, I closed 4 loans from it, and I had never mailed to it ever before. So content to the tracks, people say, that doesn't work. Yes, it does. It's hard for a lot of people because there's a lot to that one. So I wouldn't suggest that's the first place to dive in. And then paid ads. I was a big believer that paid ads don't work. Huge believer that paid ad doesn't work. But I've got another company where we use paid ads and sales funneling. This one company, from literally 0 a year ago, it'll do about just shy of $1 million in gross revenue, and have very little costs in that company. And I think I can get it to 5-6 million a year just on paid ads. Just on paid ads. So let me give you an example. I had one of my loan officers struggling. This is about 2 months ago. Very experienced loan officer, love him. So I talked to him. He's like, it's just not working. Everything I'm doing is not working. Well, in my mortgage company, we got pretty good at we went pretty big into non-QM just because I think that agencies are tightening. Well, we came out with a closed-in second, non-QM closed-in second. It's a hot commodity because the 3% interest rate guys don't want to give up their 3%, but they want to access their cash. The banks aren't giving it to them. And so it's a hot, now people like, Todd, a closed-in second. Our average loan amount's over 200,000. So, and the loan officer gets paid a point. So it's a money, so we did some paid ads for this. And he's been a loan officer for as long as I have, 30 something years. His past client database of 5,000 in a ritzy area, like high-end area. So we marketed that close-in second to his past clients. We ran some paid ads. He originated 12 of those loans the first month we did it. And he's like, dude, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So that's an example, like I wouldn't, again, 10 years ago, running paid ads for close-in seconds, sales funneling, I would have never thought of it. Now it'll be a big compliment to this guy's business.
Where do you get most?
Honestly, probably kept him in the business.
Where do you get most of your ideas?
You.
Well, we knew that. Other than that,
yes.
like where's a second source?
No, not to be self complimentary, but I think you got to know yourself. One of the things that I have I guess a talent in is I'm a good strategic thinker. So I can read a book or listen to a podcast, and I'm talking Tony Robbins podcast, Ed Milet, some of your podcasts, books. And I'm able to extract an idea out of there that will help someone or help a business that I have and implement it. So strategic thought combined with good execution. And those are just two of my skills. And so I brainstorm this stuff. And it's like, sometimes it's just one comment someone makes. So, it's like people talk about agencies, all kinds of agencies out there. I hired 3 in the last year, just agencies to do advertising, just to teach me. I got an appointment next week with a guy. He ran all of advertising for CBS in the world. Well, a friend of a friend, one of my friends that I was with last weekend, knows him personally and says, you got to get to know this guy. No problem. And he lives in my town. He's going to become my new best friend.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're my best friend. So, hey, I see we're at the top of the hour, brother. I could sit here and talk to you all day, literally. Give me one action item. So somebody's listening to this. Let's send them with one thing here. Go do this, which may or may not have anything to do with what we talked about so far.
No, I think it can. I think that our industry, sales is really hard. I've never seen it so hard. I think you have to come up with an action plan, very simple, like not complicated, very simple, a script that's proposing value. One thing, just find one thing. I could listen to 10-year podcasts and have 10 value items, right? So this is not rocket science. Pick one that you think you can do, that really execute on, use that in your value statement, and then go meet with 2 or 3 people every single day that are affiliates. That would be the quickest way to the money.
And your definition of affiliates, as you said before, would be financial planners, real estate agents, somebody that can refer you business.
Yes.
That's a great plan. Todd, dude, I absolutely love you. You're just an awesome guy. Hey, if somebody's listening to this and wants to reach out and learn more about what you're doing, what's a good way for them to do that?
They can email's probably the best. It's tscrima@summitfunding.net, and it's tscrima@summitfunding.net. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and also give out my cell number. I don't want you to call me, but if I can give you some examples or you want to text me because it's easier, do that. I've never done this before. I always want to experiment with it. So my cell phone number is 916-769-9031. If you just text me and ask me anything that you want, I will respond personally.
Wow. Hang on, let me write that number down.
You got that number.
Todd, I appreciate you, brother. You're just an awesome guy. And we're going to be doing another episode where I'm going to be just kind of doing a deep dive on what makes you tick and what, how you've become who you are. And so looking forward to that episode too.
Yeah,
So
cool. And some encouragement, guys. I know things are really hard. They won't last hard forever. I know it's really the most brutal time I've ever seen in mortgage. So it just stay in there, learn new skills, take this opportunity to learn new things, and you'll be just fine.
Tell me one thing to learn.
Marketing and sales. That's the bottleneck to the industry right now. Just focus on the bottleneck.
Brother, that's the quote of the year right there. So good stuff. Hey, thanks so much for listening in to the podcast. We really appreciate it. We always appreciate those reviews, and that helps get the word out. And we'll put on the show notes here, we'll put Todd's information so you can reach out to him. So that's about it. So thanks again. Hey, I'm going to ask you one favor. We give you our best stuff here on the podcast, absolutely for free. The favor I'm going to ask for you is I want to know if I can count on you for you to send this episode to 3 of your loan officer friends. Can I count on you for that? I'd really appreciate it. And I promise you they would too. Send it to 3 of your friends. My name is Carl White on behalf of Todd Scrima. Wish you a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.